I'm doing too much. I'm doing too much. She's doing too much. You're doing too much, girl. Oh, look cute. I look. Oh, child. Is that you? Hey, Bunny. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. My name is Honey, and today is Monday, which means Mystery Marriage Monday. If it is your first time here and you have no idea what Mystery Marriage Mondays are about, every single Monday I sit down and I share a true crime story related to a mysterious marriage. So if you're here for the first time, you like true crime daily, you like true crime stories, then hit that subscribe button because you are at the right place and you're about to have a blast on this channel, so subscribe, it's free. Like the video, comment and share with your friends. Tell your family that hey, there's a girl but that's mysterious mystery stories, true crime stories on marriages, and let them watch. Okay, it's fun. So today's story is the story of Barbra and Michael Mastromarino. Oh my goodness, I don't know how to pronounce that surname. It's Mastromarino. I feel like that's the pronunciation. If I'm getting it wrong, then I'm sorry, but I'm gonna refer to them as Barbra and Michael for the rest of the story. I'm not gonna be repeating their surname because I don't know how to pronounce their surname. And yeah, so Barbra was born in Brooklyn in 1965. She was described as popular and a go-getter. She worked in a tanning salon on a part-time basis, and on a full-time basis she worked as a dental assistant. Michael was born in Brooklyn in 1963. He is described as attractive, silent, big guy. He looked like a bodyguard. He had a slight arrogance to it because he just knew who he was, so he had that little bit of arrogance, and he was very intelligent. So Barbra used to work at a tanning salon where Michael would frequently visit. At this time, Michael was a dental student, and Barbra just saw Michael and she thought Michael was like a bodyguard or something, and she used to think there's probably some secret business going on in this tanning salon, and that's why Michael kept coming to the hair salon, because he just looked like a bodyguard, and it kind of didn't fit him to be in the tanning salon. But no, Michael would just come in for tanning. And a few weeks after they met, they went on their first date, and after their first date, Barbra was swept off her feet. She kind of fell in love with Michael right away, and they began dating. And Michael would always show her off to his friends. He would always be like, this is my person, this is my girlfriend, this is the love of my life. He would show her off and to his friends, and Barbra was pretty impressed by this, and they fell in love. 3 years later, they got married in a Catholic church, and it was the perfect wedding with a little bit of a hiccup. When Barbra went to go light the candle, it didn't light, but Barbra didn't think much of it. She was just like, okay, it's just a candle that didn't light. It's not that big of a deal. Like, I feel like nobody would think much about it. You'd also just think like, okay, the candle didn't light, it is what it is, and you move on. A few months later, after they got married, Barbra put her career ambitions to the side to support her husband. Michael wanted to become an oral surgeon, and he was a very hard-working man, and so Barbra thought she would just put her career ambitions to the side and support Michael, which, don't do that. I mean, if you're like, honestly speaking, unless you are that woman that's like okay with taking care of your husband and making sure your husband's needs are met, then do that. Like, not a lot of women want that in 2021, in this century. Not a lot of women want that, but that's what Barbra wanted. She was not forced or anything. No, she just decided to put that to the side and focus on her husband, support her husband, be the perfect wife, that thing. It's not for everyone, but maybe it's for you, or maybe it's for Barbra, but it's just not for everyone. But it worked for Barbra, and Barbra enjoyed that. So 4 years later, Michael did end up graduating. He opened his own oral surgeon practice with a few other colleagues of his, and this business was successful. As Michael's career was taking off, so was their bank account. Their bank account kept growing. They eventually had 2 sons, and they were just this perfect couple, you know, perfect marriage, beautiful kids, beautiful house, rich. What else can you ask for? It was the perfect marriage at this point. Their first signs of trouble in marriage came in the early months of 2000. Michael would seem more irritable. He would get angry easily, and his temper became frightening, like a little bit frightening. Not as frightening, but a little bit frightening. This is what Barbra describes it as. And on one particular evening, one of Barbra's friends actually noticed that something didn't seem okay with Michael, and she brought it up to Barbra. She's like, your husband, something is wrong with Michael. Is everything fine with Michael? He doesn't seem like himself. And then when Barbra brought it up to Michael, Michael was just like, no. So when Michael was in school, he used to be a football player. So, and during that time, he had a back injury that from time to time would pain. So Michael would use the excuse of, no, I just took medication for my back pain at the office. I might have taken too much. And so Barbra really didn't think much of it. She just thought like, okay, maybe he really just took too much medication, and that's why he seems off and he doesn't seem like himself. A few months later, in 2002, Barbra gets a phone call from one of Michael's colleagues, and they go like, hi Barbra, are you how are you? And she's like, no, I'm good, how are you? And they're like, no, it's everything. Have you noticed any kind of weird behavior in your husband lately? And Barbra was like, no, I didn't notice anything. He seems really fine. He seemed a little bit tired, which I'm thinking he's just tired because he's overworking himself at work, but I've not noticed anything strange from his behavior besides him seeming a little bit tired, which I'm guessing it's because of work. These colleagues then respond saying that no, we just found Michael passed out in the bathroom with a needle sticking out of his arm. So this basically meant that Michael was using drugs while he was treating patients. So what Michael would do is go treat a patient, then leave and go take drugs. He would go inject himself, whatever type of drug he's taking. It wasn't specified what type of drug he took at that time. Barbra was obviously like shocked, and she was like, is everything fine? Is he fine? Are the patients fine? She didn't know what to think, because that just didn't seem like Michael to her. She like had no idea Michael was using drugs. She had no idea Michael was an addict, but it kind of started making sense to her, because she was like, no, him seeming like tired all the time, irritated, getting angry very easily. It all started making sense to her. So Michael checked into rehab, and 3 days later he checked himself out of rehab. After Michael came back or checked himself out of rehab, 2 weeks later he lost his medical license, obviously, because he was practicing medicine without a license. He would come home disheveled. He would be more irritable, and it was just not okay. Like, he was not okay. And so Barbra also didn't want to press him too much, because she was worried by pressing him she would get him angry more, because he just lost his medical license, so he's probably going through it. But one day it was their son's birthday, and they were having a birthday dinner for their son, but Michael didn't show up for this dinner. Barbra became concerned. She was like, what could possibly be going on? What if he got drugged somewhere and he's stranded somewhere? What if something happened to him? Like, all these ugly thoughts were going on in her mind. So she decided to take matters in her own hands. It was around 12 o'clock midnight, and she decided to drive her car around their neighborhood looking for Michael and hoping to find Michael. As she was driving, she came across, like, in front of her there were police lights flashing, and she was like, okay, what's going on? So she drives. As she's driving, she notices that there's an accident scene. So she stops by, or she starts driving slow to stop now. As she's trying to stop, she notices Michael's car, and Michael sitting on the floor looking disheveled, looking out of place. So she comes, she parks, and she's like, that's my husband, what happened? When she comes, she notices that, oh, okay, Michael was in a car accident, but he seems fine, nothing is wrong with him. But then she also notices there was another woman with Michael that was in the same car as Michael. So Barbra became devastated. Like, you can cheat, in her mind now, she's like, you can cheat on me with drugs, but cheating on me with another woman, that's just not a line we can cross. So after the accident, Michael went back to rehab. Okay, so basically Barbra took him to rehab. As much as she didn't want to talk to him, as much as she was disappointed in him and felt betrayed by him, she felt like it was her husband, and her husband needed her more this time than ever. So she took him to rehab, made sure that he got there. Michael stayed in rehab for 3 weeks, and then he checked himself out after 3 weeks. And when he left rehab, he seemed like a changed man. He was humble, and he was filled with humility. And through the whole rehab process, Barbra has learned a lot about what she believed was marriage, or like, she has learned a lot about the whole rehab process. She has learned a lot about how she can deal with Michael if the case came up again, or if he relapsed again. So and she believed that Michael was a changed man because of how Michael behaved after he came back from a rehab. Barbra was convinced that Michael was a changed man. So during the fall of 2000, without his dental license, Michael needed a new career. He tried to reinvent himself, and he came up with the perfect career story where he could basically practice medicine without really having to practice medicine without a medical license. So the career he came up with was tissue recovery, and it was just the perfect fit for him. And in 2002, Michael launched his company, which was called Biomedical Tissue Services. This company sold body tissues for transplants, research, bone grafts, with the consent of the family. It was a very legal procedure if you had the permission of the family, and then there were other documents that you had to look at, such as what was the cause of death of this person. Did this person have any type of illnesses? Did they die of cancer? Did they die of HIV and AIDS? Like, all of these procedures, you needed to make sure that the body you were harvesting was medically safe and it was a healthy body. So Michael would basically have a partnership with funeral houses where they would buy bodies or get bodies from funeral houses for $1,000, and then Michael would then sell these bodies for around $10,000 to $15,000 to medical institutions for research and tissue harvesting, all of these things that we just mentioned earlier. Michael soon moved to a new neighborhood with his family. They were back on their feet. They had enough money to buy a bigger house, not buy a bigger house, but move to a bigger house. Michael was living in this house when the pavement of their house where the cars were parked had heaters on. I mean, underneath. This would allow for their house not for the snow not to build up on their house during the winter. So pretty impressive. That's how much money Michael was making. Imagine just making like 10 to 15,000 for one dead body. How many dead bodies Michael was working with? It's a lot. Michael worked with a lot of dead bodies at this during this time period. And Barbra was happy again. She basically relaxed and they were happy. Basically, they were again living their dream again. So the bad thing about this business that Michael started, this legit business that Michael started, wasn't really legit. Michael would harvest any type and every kind of body. So sometimes he would harvest people's bodies without their consent, the consent of their family. He would harvest bodies of people that died of AIDS. He would harvest bodies of people that died of cancer, and basically he would fake paperwork and come up with fake consent forms. He would come up with fake medical, like the bodies have to be tested, right? So those test papers that Michael would present were fake as well. And basically he began being investigated. And so one day Barbra gets a phone call, and it's Michael, and he seems like, you know, like a person that's whispering, and he's telling her like, no, the police are here at my office, they are going through my stuff, they are confiscating everything, my knives, everything, they are taking everything. And Barbra was like, okay, wait, what's going on, what's happening? And she was just confused, like she had no idea what was going on. And she later on went to learn that no, Michael was basically stealing bodies. And what he would do also sometimes, like when he takes out, when he works on a body and maybe he harvests a bone or something from the body, he would replace this bone with a PVC pipe. So these PVC pipes are commonly used, obviously. If the people agreed, they would just replace them with these pipes, and everything would look fine, like nothing would look wrong with the body, because you would put the pipes back in, dress the person. So even if you are having an open casket, if you are having an open casket funeral, then people would look at the body and everything would seem fine, and they wouldn't think like, okay, no, something that was not supposed to happen here happened. Everything just seemed fine. So this whole thing went on from 2002 to 2005, and it was only in 2005 that the authorities came to realize what Michael was doing. So Michael got arrested. Don't know, went on to live her life, take care of her 2 children without her husband. Michael died in prison at the age of 45, and guess what he died of, you guys? It's weird how this universe works, but Michael ended up dying of bone cancer. Like, not only was he stealing people's bones and harvesting them, he actually died of bone cancer. Like, what is the irony in that? Like, it's just so weird. Like, what are the chances of him dying of that? But Barbra went on to write a book. I'll leave the link to the book in the description box below if you want to go read the book. I just forgot what it's called. I think it's Wife of the Body Snatcher. I think that's what the book is called. I can't remember very well what the book is called, but I have a link to the book if you want to go read it. Most of the book is also like, you have to buy the book to read it, so I was not gonna buy it, but I found a link where you could read a lot of pages from the book, basically. The kids would also visit the father in prison. She would take the kids to visit the father in prison until the point the father died. So we have come to the end of this video. If you enjoyed it, give it a huge thumbs up. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And see you next week, Monday. Bye.